Today we are doing something a little different. We are going for a drive with the truck in my summer car, BeamNG and Euro Truck Simulator 2. I want to tell you more about my new steering wheel, the Moza trucking steering wheel. This video is also a pretty big moment for me because after 9 years of making videos on YouTube, this is my first proper voice reveal. So yes, after all that time, you finally get to hear me talking while I drive one of the most dangerous vehicles in my summer car. I think that is a fitting way to do it. As you may have already noticed from my recent videos, I have been using this wheel for around a month. During that time, I tested it in several games, including BeamNG Drive, Euro Truck Simulator 2, SnowRunner, and of course my summer car with the truck. I have spent many hours with the full setup, sometimes playing for a few hours in one session, so this is not just a first impression after opening the box. I had enough time to get used to the size of the wheel, test the controls, change some settings, use the shifter, move the pedals around, and see how the entire set works during normal gameplay. And honestly, I do not remember the last time I had this much fun with truck driving games. A normal racing wheel can work in Euro Truck Simulator 2 or SnowRunner, but using a proper truck-sized steering wheel changes the whole feeling. It makes these games feel more natural and much more immersive. Even in my summer car, driving the becomes a completely different experience. The truck already feels big, slow, heavy, and slightly dangerous, and using a large steering wheel with a manual shifter makes every trip feel more serious. Turning into narrow roads, correcting the truck when it starts moving in the wrong direction, and changing gears manually all become much more enjoyable. The full set I have is the Moza trucking bundle together with the multifunction stalks and the Moza Racing HGPRS039 shifter. The shifter has 7 forward gears plus reverse, and it works especially well in Euro Truck Simulator 2 with 16-speed truck gearboxes. You still need to use the proper gearbox controls in the game, but having a physical shifter with
Recomputing.
this layout makes the experience
Finding
far
a
better
new
than
route.
changing gears with small buttons on a standard wheel. It gives you something real to reach for, and after some time you stop thinking about where each gear is because it becomes natural. I received the entire set from Moza Racing, so I want to thank them for sending it to me. All links to the products shown in this video can
Keep
be found in the
reflecting.
description. I still want this review to be useful and honest, so I will also talk about the one real issue I noticed during this month of intensive use. Overall, though, my experience has been very positive. The first thing that impressed me when I opened the box was the build quality. The whole set feels solid, and it does not feel like it was made from cheap plastic. The wheel itself is covered in leather, similar to what you would find in a real vehicle, and it has a diameter of 40 centimeters. That makes it much larger than the wheels I used before. At first, the size can surprise you because it takes up much more space on the desk, but once you start driving a truck, the large diameter makes complete sense. It fits the type of games this wheel was designed for, and it adds a lot to the feeling of controlling a large vehicle. The wheel also has many buttons, which is important in truck simulators because you often need quick access to lights, the horn, cruise control, the engine, cameras, the map, the parking brake, and many other functions. One small thing that surprised me in a very positive way was the set of stickers included with the wheel. These stickers let you change the graphics on the buttons. That may sound like a small detail, but it is actually very useful. When you add the multifunction stalks, some of the original button graphics may no longer match the functions you want to use. For example, you may move indicators, wipers, or cruise control to the stalks, which means the buttons that were previously used for those functions can now be assigned to something else. Instead of having a button with the wrong icon, you can simply place a different sticker on it. You may also want to arrange your controls in a completely different way. Every player has different preferences, and every game has slightly different controls. With the stickers, you can make the wheel match your own bindings. This means you do not have to remember every single button from memory. You can look at the icon and immediately know what that button is supposed to do. It is a simple idea, but it makes the wheel easier to set up and easier to use. Now I need to talk more about the multifunction stalks because this is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole setup. This is the kind of accessory I wanted 25 years ago when I was 8 years old and had my first steering wheel for PlayStation. Back then, having real indicator and wiper stalks on a gaming wheel sounded like something from the future. Now I finally have them, and they are exactly the type of detail that makes a simulator setup feel special. The indicator stalk is not just a normal button placed next to the wheel. It works in a way that feels much closer to a real car. You move the stalk to activate the turn signal, and the setup also uses an automatic canceling mechanism. When you finish the turn and bring the wheel back, the indicator can turn off automatically. That may not make the truck faster, but it changes the way you interact with the game. Instead of pressing a button and then trying to
Keep
remember to
right
press it
and then
again,
exit
you
right.
use the indicator like you would in a real vehicle. The stalks also give you physical
Exit
controls
right.
for functions such as the wipers and cruise control. These are things that you use all the time in truck simulators, especially during longer drives or changing weather. Having them in a familiar position makes the controls easier to reach and more satisfying to use. It also frees up more buttons on the wheel for other actions. In Euro Truck Simulator 2, the complete setup feels especially good. You have the large wheel, the stalks, the manual shifter, and enough buttons for the functions you need during a drive. When you start the engine, choose a gear, activate the indicator, turn onto the road, and then set cruise control.
Go
The whole
straight on.
process feels more involved. It is still a game, but every action has its own physical control, and that makes even a normal delivery more interesting. BeamNG gives you another type of experience. That game can be calm and realistic, but it can also become complete chaos in a few seconds. Using the trucking wheel with larger vehicles makes the driving feel more appropriate, especially when you are trying to control something heavy. And when the vehicle starts to move in a direction you did not plan, the large wheel makes the recovery feel much more dramatic. Then we have My Summer Car, which is the game you are watching right now. The truck is already one of those vehicles that demands attention. It is not something you drive while completely relaxed. With the Moza trucking steering wheel, the truck feels even more like a real machine that needs proper control. You have to think about your steering, your gears, and the space around the truck. The wheel makes every turn feel bigger, and the shifter makes the whole drive more interactive. Another important part of the Moza setup is the Moza Pit House software. This is where you can change the settings for the wheel and other connected Moza devices. You can configure the LED indicator on the wheel, change the color of each illuminated button, and adjust other important settings for the wheel, shifter, and pedals. The button color customization is especially useful if you want your setup to be easy to read. You can give different functions different colors. The LED indicator can also be configured inside the software. I like having these options in one place because it lets you adjust the hardware to the way you actually play. The software is also helpful when you are setting everything up for the first time. The SRP light pedals are another part of the bundle, and they have a very flexible design. You can change the position of the pedals and adjust the distance between them. This is useful because not everyone sits in the same position and not everyone uses the same driving style. For example, if you want to brake with your left foot, you can move the brake pedal closer to the throttle. If you prefer a wider layout, you can increase the distance. You are not forced to use one fixed arrangement. You can set the pedals up in a way that feels comfortable for your desk, chair, and legs. You can also add a clutch pedal if you want a more simulation focused setup. That is especially useful when you are using the HGP shifter and want the complete manual driving experience. The ability to expand the pedal set is a good option because some players may be happy with the brake and throttle, while others will want all three pedals. The trucking bundle is designed to work at a desk, and it includes a clamp for the trucking wheel. That is useful because not everyone has a full simulator cockpit or a dedicated playseat. You can attach the wheel to a normal desk, connect the rest of the equipment, and start playing. You can also buy a separate table clamp for the shifter, which lets you mount it next to the wheel. This type of setup works well for me because I can use it without rebuilding my entire room around a simulator. However, this leads to the only real problem I noticed during the month. The SRP light pedals feel more suited to being mounted on a playseat or another stable platform. When you use only the throttle and brake pedals and want the brake next to the throttle, the pedal layout can become unbalanced on a smooth floor. In my setup, I needed to place something under the left side so the pedals would not move or tilt. Without the clutch pedal, the distance between the brake and throttle needs to be set to the maximum if you want the base to stay more balanced. There is no built-in mechanism that properly stops the pedals from sliding on floor panels, and there is also no part that locks them into a carpet. This is not a problem with the way the pedals work while driving. The issue is simply keeping the pedal base stable when it is not mounted to a cockpit. If you already have a playseat or plan to mount the pedals, this will probably not matter much. But if you want to use the full bundle only at a desk, directly on a smooth floor, you may need to secure the pedals or place something underneath them. For me, this was the only meaningful downside during the entire month of use. I played with the setup for many hours, often for a few hours at a time, and everything else left a very good impression. The wheel feels solid, the leather finish is comfortable, the size is perfect for truck games, the button stickers are genuinely useful, the multifunction stalks add a lot of immersion, the shifter works great for truck gearboxes, and the software gives you plenty of control over the setup. What I like most is that the whole set does not feel like a collection of random accessories. Every part adds something to the experience. The large wheel changes the way steering feels. The stalks make indicators, wipers, and cruise control more natural. The shifter makes manual gear changes more satisfying. The pedals can be adjusted to your preferred position. The software helps you personalize the buttons and lights. Together, these parts make truck simulators feel much more involved. Before using this setup, I could play the same games with a smaller wheel and standard controls, and they were still fun. But after a month with the Moza trucking steering wheel, I do not really want to go back when I am driving trucks. The size, the controls, and the additional hardware fit these games too well. It also made me want to spend more time in games I already knew. Euro Truck Simulator 2 deliveries feel fresh again because the driving process is more physical. BeamNG becomes more entertaining with heavy vehicles. And in my summer car, driving the truck feels like a proper event instead of just another trip across the map. This is why I can recommend the set with a clear conscience. Now I should probably focus on the road before I crash the truck.